Adventure Ho, Lumineers, and welcome back to another episode of DuckTale Dads. My name is Ryan. I'm joined by Mack and Nathaniel, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Winterspell pre-release weekend happened. We managed to get everybody that we have in our little mini Discord group together for the first time all together at an event, which was pretty stellar to have that turnout. And to go along with that, we're going to talk about some upcoming events in the Minnesota community, and then we're also going to just recap the first weekend of pre-release. It's an exciting weekend. Product is pulled. We get to play with the product for the first time, and we get to see some market trends that we're going to talk about a little bit as well. So before we get into all the rest of that, let's start with our top of the show every single time. What's new in your world? Nathaniel, start us off.
Well, I will say the sealed event was an absolute blast, as always. That was so fun, and we did it. Boys, we did it. We got all five of us at the same event for the first time in history. It was fantastic to be there with you, and just being able to kind of chat at the start, right? And I think the fun thing, too, about sealed is that we could kind of also chat a little bit during the deck building phase, too, right? It's a little bit of a chill start to the event. So that was super fun. So definitely that from a Lorcana perspective. Love the hype of a new set. From a personal perspective, I found out towards the end of last week that the chat tool many people know of as Slack, a competitor for Microsoft Teams if you're not familiar with Slack, but there's other stuff they do too. But think about it as a chat tool. There's something you can do with their new AI where you actually ask Slack, based on my activity, what animal would I be? And as many listeners might know, I have historically been referred to as the DuckTale Dads Golden Retriever. And sure enough, Slack also deemed me a Golden Retriever. So that was absolutely hilarious. I immediately had to let both Ryan and Mack know. And it's not just like dogs, right? Like people were getting dolphin or chameleon. Like it's any animal, it shows Golden Retriever. So I thought that was very on brand.
It couldn't have been any other result. It had to be that. There's no other option.
Yeah. So turns out very on brand naming from Mack, or maybe Mack's just also AI. I don't know. On that vein, maybe pass to you, Mack, for what's new in your world.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I am just AI. Beep, boop, beep, boop. Here we go. But what's new in my world? Obviously, the sealed event. What wasn't mentioned during Nathaniel's What's New in Your World is I surprised you guys in a way. So I know last week I alluded to that I was kind of unsure if I was going to make it. And that was very much the case. It wasn't until Thursday at about, 3 in the afternoon, after a conversation with my wife. We had a really tough week with kids being sick. My oldest was home from school for 3 days, and due to the flexibility of my job, I was at home all 3 days with him, ensuring he was good, but I also worked from home. So I was very mentally and physically drained with that process. And after Thursday, my wife got home from work. She was like, you should just go to this event because you need a break and you just need to go. And I was like, thank you. I do need a rest. I need to go get out of the house. But at this point, I'd already told my wife about this event and how it's something I'd be interested in. And she was like, are you going to tell the guys? And I was like, nope, I'm just going to show up and see what happens. And knowing that the aforementioned Golden Retriever of the group, we wanted to see what his reaction would be, specifically Nathaniel, just because like as soon as I would walk in, I was predicting that you would just like light up and like your Golden Retriever like light bulb would click and you were like you just spring into action, right? And that was very much how it was. I walked in, Evan and Connor waved at me, and then once you saw me, you're just like, and you had this big face, like grin on your face, like, oh my gosh, he made it. And then Ryan, you showed up probably 5 minutes later, and you walked up to the table, and I don't really thought you realized I was there, and then you kind of turned your head and was like, wait, why are you here? So yeah, I think a successful execution, unsurprising, and I got a little, it had a conversation with my wife that I needed to pull that off. So that was fun to see you guys, your guys' reaction. But other than that, what's new in my world, non-Lorcana related, we started our bathroom renovation this weekend. And tell me you're 30 without telling me you're 30. You go to bed immediately after work and your back is just absolutely sore the next morning. That's how I was. It was a brutal, like, laborious weekend after that. All day Saturday and all day Sunday, we were destroying what our previous bathroom was, and now it's down to the studs. So we're going to start that renovation up within the next couple weeks, getting materials and putting our dream bathroom together. So last thing for me is my youngest is in dance. And he received his dance costumes today, and we tried him on, and he looks very adorable, and he's very excited for his recitals in the next couple months. So that was fun to watch him and have his, like, a big grin on his face and everything light up as well. So very good weekend overall, productive weekend, a little bit of Lorcana and homework, but got it all done, and on to the next week. Ryan, how about you?
So my weekend was a large blend of both personal and Lorcana related events, as obviously evidenced by the fact that I co-host a podcast with y'all every single week. My wife is fully aware that I am very into this game, and in lieu of a bouquet of flowers, she decided she would get me a gift, and she got me a gift of a bouquet of packs instead, which is far and away a much better gift for me, let's be real. So kudos to the real MVP. Shout out to my wife, because it was quite the surprise to open that as we're heading out the door for our lunch date on Valentine's Day. So we got to open some extra packs after the sealed event. Otherwise, obviously the sealed event was a blast. I don't think I had, maybe I'm just bad at the game, which is very possible, but I also don't think I had the strongest sealed pool to pull from for the event, and so it goes. Made some misplays, lost a couple of games that maybe I shouldn't have lost, but so it goes, and ended up 1-2 for the evening. But I do feel like I had the best pull of the evening of our small group as well. And as soon as I saw the card, my first thought was, I can't believe this happened. And my second thought was, crap, don't let Mack and Evan come over here and tell me about it. Because you two are the two of the group, Mack and Evan are two of the group that give me the hardest time for having the best pack luck in our household. And to be fair, we're on a bit of a heater right now. That's the truth of it. So I ended up pulling in the one prize pack I won for the entire evening, pulling an Enchanted, which felt really great to have that shiny cardboard. And the Enchanteds do look incredible. They have a little bit of like silver shininess woven into the art. The artwork is fantastic. And so yeah, I'm really excited. It was exciting to pull that to cap off the evening of seeing Mack, which was a giant surprise. I was thoroughly surprised. And then just having some fun playing card games with other people at the store. Want to make sure we don't forget to give a shout out to the game store itself. Kraken Hits ran a phenomenal event on Friday night. 44 participants, which was quite the field for a sealed event on pre-release weekend, and it ran very smoothly. And there was not much delays. It was very generous pricing and raffle giveaways. And everyone there that I talked to, at least, was friendly and welcoming, as we would always expect the Lorcana community to be. Had a great time chatting with the people that we got to play with, and yeah, all in all, it was a great Friday evening. Had a fantastic Saturday we got a lunch date in for Valentine's Day. We got to open some more packs and play a lot of Pack Rush, a lot of Pack Rush in our household. And yeah, it was a blend of a weekend of both personal and Lorcana events. I don't want to take up too much time and so we can get into other things, but were there any other shout-outs that I forgot to mention or that we wanted to bring up regarding our time together on Friday?
I think I'll get into some more specific shout-outs when we do more of a deep dive in the recap. But Nathaniel, I think we're planning to mention some upcoming events from people we learned from at the sealed event. So do you want to run through those and make sure we hit those?
Yeah, so I think the two biggest upcoming events that we know of in the Minnesota area that are coming up are going to be the Pi Day, March 14th. Games Enter is hosting a case tourney for those who might be interested. That is March 14th weekend. And then the following weekend is MankatoCon. So shouts to Nathaniel Rosado, otherwise known as Nathaniel Squared, because I am indeed older than him. That is going to be an all-weekend event with a Friday multiplayer event, a Saturday 1K, and then I'm not totally sure on the Sunday piece, but I do believe we will have some assets coming out soon for that. We will also share those to our Instagram page for those who might be interested. And I'm sure anyone who's active in the other social media channels for the Minnesota community, including some of the wider ones, but also specifically the Minnesota channels on Facebook, for example, will likely see some of those assets posted pretty soon here. But that is the following weekend. That's March 20th to the 22nd weekend, Mankato Con, having plenty of Lorcana fun. So lots to look forward to in the next month, which is pretty exciting. I think for just other events, right? Like, I feel like anytime we leave an event, you kind of have some of that extra energy and some of that extra juice. Speak for myself as the golden retriever. But yeah, also a good reminder for me to also post our picture from Friday night at Kraken Hits. So yeah, for those who aren't familiar, Kraken Hits in Fridley, Minnesota, they are just such an amazing shop, so kind to their player base. And it was amazing to see that many players at an event that, you know, it's not like a big, huge tournament, right? It was just pre-release weekend, and just so much fun seeing how many people that we saw there, especially you, Mac. That the surprise was absolutely incredible. I was over the moon. That was very well executed. And on that note, I think going forward, I'll have to kind of, when someone's like, I don't know if I'll make it, probably not, I'm just always going to think, you know, so you're saying there's a chance because Mac made it so.
Yeah, the first thing that my wife asked was your reaction. And then you actually texted me the next morning, Saturday, like recapping how excited you were that I showed up. And that was the first person I told was my wife. And she laughed out loud for sure. She thought it was hilarious, the excitement coming through the phone in just a simple text message. But to your point about upcoming events, for those of you who aren't aware, the Game Center Case Tourney, that is being put on by AJ, who did the second year anniversary event. So he's very familiar with putting on these events. Of note, I'm looking on it on PlayHub now. Right now it's 64 player cap, and already 26 players are signed up for this event. So people are very excited about it. So if that's something you're thinking about, highly consider signing up early. Unfortunately, on the next weekend, the Mankato Con, it sounds really fun. I'm just personally going to be attending a wedding that weekend, which is a little sad. I know the goal of AJ for the Game Center event is, it's like we have this gap of like major tournaments, right, from now until the next DLC, and from now until in preparation for even a set champs level coming up the next month. So his idea was putting this on so people could get used to, get some reps into some competitive play, not only for long-term DLC, but in preparation for set champ season. So that's the whole mindset about it. I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive than what the second year anniversary event. So just picture it as a bigger set champs is what I'm kind of viewing it as. And if I'm able, I'm going to attend that one because that one looks like a lot of fun. And I know a lot of people in our community who are at the sealed event are going too. So just wanted to provide that extra shout out to AJ and those putting on that Game Center tourney for sure. But I'm ready to talk our event more in depth. What do you guys think?
Yeah, let's dive into the pre-release event itself. I will start off. So made some new connections. Felt like we met some people there that I wanted to just shout out them as well quick. So Nathaniel's first round opponent happened to be my second round opponent. So I don't think somebody can play two of the DuckTale Dads and get away with not being mentioned on the podcast. So he's a relatively new player to the Lorcana scene, but he said he'd been playing Magic for a while. His name is Legend, which I'm sure he gets a lot of double takes throughout his time in any space, anywhere he goes. Really cool dude. Really great chatting with him for effectively 2 hours of the event, since I was next to Nathaniel for the round one, and then I was paired up with Legend for round two. Shout out to him, and thanks for putting up with us over the course of that day. And then the other one was my round three opponent, who I'm grateful that I got to meet in person, because the energy and the enthusiasm that they show through their posts on social media channels has been like infectious. Of like this, and Max puts it greatly, that it's like a reminder of like how exciting and entertaining the game is, especially like for a new player. So Katie, thank you for sharing your enthusiasm and your excitement, and thank you for making my Enchanted pull that much like elevating it to that next level and making sure that everyone in the store knew what was happening. Because if it was probably just me pulling it on my own, I might have been able to skate it under the radar and not tell anybody about it. But yeah, no, she was a great time. Had, like I said, has so much energy and enthusiasm for the game, and it was awesome just to like sit down across from her and chat with her and learn a little bit more about her journey and what brought her into the Lorcana space. So, Legend and Katie, thanks for sharing your stories with us on Friday night, and I'm sure Nathaniel met a million more people, but everyone we talked to there, it was nice catching up with people we already are acquainted with and friends with in the Lorcana community, hearing some fantastic stories from Christian and Hannah. Just side-splitting laughter at the end of the event really just brought the whole thing together. Like I said, my sealed pool is not that great. I think I had one single lumpy. I didn't have a ton of evasive answers. And honestly, my deck didn't really know what it wanted to do either. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my deck either. This is a tough set in my mind, to craft a like cohesive, strong, sealed limited deck with. There's a ton of like middle uninkables that are really good, like mid-cost uninkables, 3, 4, 5, that are like good, but it's hard to determine like what's better, what's not as good, and then trying to like get to that point is challenging too. If you have a ton of the uninkables, you kind of just sit on them for almost too long, and you don't know what's going to be the most impactful to play. So maybe I just need to get a little more experience with the cards to be able to really understand it and have a successful night. But still had fun playing the cards nonetheless. And like I said, ended up 1-2, and can never be sad about a night that you end up pulling an Enchanted. So whether I would have gone 1-2 or 3-0, as long as if I pull an Enchanted, it's always a good day. So what were y'all's experiences?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here with Katie. Her reaction definitely was the highlight of the night, or put a good stamp on the night with you pulling the Enchanted between the pack of you two, the winning pack. I remember like everyone kind of did the double take and turned around, and then I was like, Ryan's sitting over there. So I walked over there, and I realized that it was you. And then you looked up, and that's when you saw me, and the first thing you said was, "Don't say anything," alluding to your pack luck and the heater that you've been on over the last couple sets and what you've been pulling. So I immediately bursted out laughing because you did catch me. I was about to call you out on it. But shout out to Katie's daughter. I'm not going to name her, but I ended up playing her in round 2. She's very talented. I know she's a 3rd grader, but very skilled at the game already, which was quite impressive. To your point, though, about like the new connections, I met a lot of people that started this game with Fabled. And I think that was that piqued my interest in knowing that like that's kind of what Ravensburger's goal was introducing rotations early, or one of their goals with that, getting new people into the game and feeling like they're not like 4 steps behind with all the other previous sets. We met a lot of people that joined during Fabled, Legend being one of them, Katie and her daughter. My 3rd round opponent, I'm blanking out on his name. I think his name is Garrett. So shout out you, Garrett. All of them joined around the Fabled release. So I thought that was really cool. And it gave me kind of a breath of fresh air and a sense of hope that this game is attracting new people into the game, and kind of the sustainability of the game makes me feel excited about that. Also with that, I wanted to, again, shout out Kraken Hits, but specifically Cole, who manages the events not only on a weekly night, but does all of their bigger, limited, like sealed and draft, and then set champs. He's not only a fantastic host, he's exceptional with the rules. So well done, Cole. You always put on a really good show when it comes to hosting those types of events. And all the directions were very clear. But in terms of my pulls, I did have one legendary pull. I pulled one of the legendaries I was actually seeking, though, because I don't know if it's going to fit in red-blue, but I pulled the Wreck-It Ralph, and I'm very excited about that. On the flip side, though, very poor limited card. So he did not go in my deck, but I'm glad that I have it to see if that's something I want to do from a core constructive perspective. Overall, I thought I had a pretty good deck. I ultimately went 2-1. And to your point, Ryan, like this was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Even when talking about it last week, I thought like I was prepared on what cards I was looking for. But then when we started opening the packs, the number of viable uninkables became a problem in the sense of it was hard to choose like how many should go into your deck. It's kind of ironic that we were talking about we don't go over 6 uninkables in a sealed deck. I ended up with 8, I think, or maybe even 9, because they were so good. Those 4-cost uninkables, I pulled like 4 of them, and they were the core of my deck, and they needed to be a part of my deck, right? So it definitely took some creativity on ensuring I always had enough ink to play those good cards. Thankfully, though, I think my MVP of my deck, ironically, was another uninkable, but it was the uninkable Grandmother Willow. It allowed me to cheat out ink. So I would always prioritize that on turn 2, and which allowed me to just, for the cost of 1 additional ink, I could play those 4-cost uninkables, and it worked out really, really well for me. The round that I lost was round 1. And I definitely took some lessons learned from my opponent there. He wiped the floor with me. I lost 0-2. But the cards that I saw in his deck were actually, there were 2 cards that I left in my sideboard, so to speak. And the way Cole ran the show there was between rounds, not in between games of a match, in between rounds, you could swap cards from your sideboard. So I immediately put those 2 cards that I saw into my deck and took out kind of some more useless cards that I found out were not working very well. So overall, after that, I won my last 2 matches, got 2 packs out of it. I felt like I had a blast. I realized how much I loved doing sealed, and now we're planning a friend sealed event in the next week or so to kind of do the same thing and capture that same momentum from this past weekend. But yeah, it was a blast. And then we had some post-tournament fun. We did go to Perkins again, as we did to celebrate our kind of our 1-year anniversary of going to Perkins. And we felt like we had to because we had all 5 of us there. Unfortunately, Ryan, you needed to get home for the kids. We definitely missed you there. But Josiah, shout out Josiah, he joined us. So we had 5 of us there, had some late night Perkins and celebrate the event, and an underrated burger at Perkins. I'm going to say that, right, Nathaniel? But that's kind of my recap from the event.
Yeah, I'll double down on the burger was pretty good, and also really fun to see Josiah. We got to spend a lot of time with him at the DLC in Milwaukee last year. So fun to just reconnect with players, right, that don't necessarily live in your exact locale that you don't see too often, and get to reconnect through these events. So I also went 2-1, and the player who wiped the floor with Mack wiped the floor with me in round 3 after I started 2-0. And it was actually the Forbidden Mountains Nate. So he's a really great player. You could just see just very well kind of executed turns, plan, like there was a clear plan in place. And yeah, he absolutely destroyed me. And I think Mack, it would have been really beneficial to, after seeing how he played his cards, potentially look through mine. There was one card in particular that was really interesting because, yes, we talked about the uninkable thing, right? And I remember saying, like, what is it? Like, you could go up to, like, 8, right? And you guys were both like, no way. And I started with 9. I trimmed down to 8 as well in my set of 40 cards. And the card that he used that I thought was crazy good in sealed, if built the correct way around it, I suppose we should probably say, is the Steel 3-cost uninkable Rapunzel Ethereal Protector. This is a 3-cost uninkable quest for 2, 3/3. Doesn't seem all that menacing, right? But she's a boost 2. Whenever this character quests, if there's a card under her, chosen opposing character can't challenge until the start of your next turn. This card is really annoying. And like definitely helped him slam the door. It was already pretty much shut. This made it so like it was definitely over. That card's amazing. So I highly recommend it. If it's in your pool, this absolutely deserves one of the uninkable slots. And it was, it's just cool to see the interactions from sealed cards. One other big takeaway I had, guys, is like, we went through like 50 cards, right? About how like these are all super great ones you're going to want to look for in your sealed pool. I saw maybe 6 of them. Maybe. So like I think, Mac, I felt that too, right? Of, hey, I feel relatively prepared. I've looked through the good cards that I'm really trying to build around. The problem, though, is you don't see a whole lot of those cards. So we could have pipe dreams of seeing Ohana Means Family for all of us not named Ryan, or like other good cards, right? I didn't see Lumpy, so yeah, I was able to make do with some evasive answers, but yeah, definitely tough. And I think one feedback point I think I'd have for us, like the next time we go, is like maybe like wish list cards for that episode, and then maybe like cards you could maybe more so expect to see commons, uncommons, right? But even then, right, it's such a, call it a crapshoot, right, of just like what you end up actually getting. And such great skill expression and being able to build a deck, but sometimes your pool just might not be all that great too. So, yeah, it was so much fun, so fun to like be in that room, and also like, I don't know about you guys, but low key, like the raffles are also kind of fun too. Like in between rounds, like I was super invested in like hearing who was gonna win, so that was super cool. That Kraken Hits also did that. From a pull perspective, I got one legendary. It was the Donald Duck Fred Honeywell. I think that card will be amazing in boost decks. Maybe your purple green, you double boost your Cheshire Cat. That sounds insane. Or other, decks that have a lot of boost characters. I could see that being really, really cool. And from a cards pulled from the greater group, though, I think it's really interesting. Of course, Ryan was one of our enchanted pulls. Wouldn't have it any other way. But with 44 people there, and a quarter of a box going to each person right away, right? That's 11 boxes. So basically 3 cases just for the initial packs. And then if you think about all the prize packs, it's another 22 people. It's 66 more. So like roughly 3 more boxes. So 4.5 cases worth of product. So you would anticipate roughly 4 enchanteds, I guess, right? But
yeah.
That being said, I think we saw
4 enchanteds, right? 3.5 cases, 4 enchanteds.
So it would have been 4.5 cases, because there were 11 boxes, right? Am I doing that math right? I'm not doing that math right. No.
Nope.
It's 3.5. You're right. It's 3.5. So 3.5, you'd expect to see at least 3, if not at least. You could have the dud case, but 3.5 roughly, like 3, if not maybe 4 enchanteds. And Ryan, you got one of them. I know there was one other one pulled during the initial set of 6, packs during the deck building phase, but I didn't hear any other. Do we know if a third one was pulled?
Yeah, I think there was actually 4 total pulled on the night, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe there was just 3, but I know there was definitely. Sorry, Mac, what did you say?
I think it was 3 was pulled during the deck building phase, and I think 2 more were pulled out of prize packs. I think we had 5 total enchanteds pulled throughout the night.
Perfect. Yeah, I saw the post that they made afterwards, and I saw a bunch of enchanteds, and I thought, I didn't hear that much commotion on that night. So some people are just pulling them and sliding them underneath the table and putting them in their top loaders and not saying a word.
Yeah,
so actually,
or you just
really
need
good.
like an opponent like Katie to just shout and scream on your behalf too. Shout out, Katie.
So, I mean, that being said, guys, actually our group of 44, right, did pretty well then in terms of like the ratio of enchanted. So that's pretty exciting. I'm kind of bummed I didn't hear the hoopla for more than Ryan's, and like one of the ones during the deck building phase of the enchanted hoopla. I think it's like I would freak out if I pulled an enchanted during any of these sealed events, for sure. So you guys will definitely know when I do that. But yeah, I think to Ryan's point too, like you pulled the cold never bothered me anyway action, and it looked absolutely stunning. So they crushed it with the artwork once again. Yeah, it's a beautiful card, and hopefully we can see at least one more of those before the set's over.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. This event, like I said before, really well organized. I think also the greater Minnesota community, you can tell we're getting closer and closer and closer with seeing the same people at events. So everyone, the buzz was there. I felt like everyone knew someone there and was in conversation with them. Shout out Christian and Hannah, who were sitting right behind us and were very much willing to help us out. Like we would turn over our shoulders and say, "Hey, is this a good card?" And they would happily share their opinion about a certain card. So they helped us work through a couple of those kind of last minute details. Christian needs a better and more formidable laundry basket. So if you know, you know. And someone who goes to meet out with him, the next time you see him at an event, ask him about the laundry basket. I'm sure he'd love to tell you about it. But either way, overall, it was a lot of good fun. I don't know. It made me realize how much I like enjoy going out, and I mean, obviously, family comes first, and we need to be home and hang out with our families, take care of the kids, and that's our priority. And where we get consume our lore kind of content is not only here, but like mainly online. But being able to get out to those events and seeing members of the community, it's really, really fun. And one of the biggest reasons why I continue and want to continue playing this game, because it's fun to open product and see the excitement all around, especially at a sealed event like that. So I didn't have any other really good pulls, I don't think, other than the Wreck-It Ralph. I maybe had a Grab Your Bow, which might be nice for me for core constructed, but I didn't pull the bell I was looking for, right? The Sapphire Bell. I did have the one of the 2-cost Lilo bundled up. So like some good core constructed cards that I think I'll use over the course of now and beyond, moving into set champs and hopefully what Ruby Sapphire comes to play, right? But other than that, just kind of average meh cards, and we'll see how it turns out as the meta starts to shape around too. There's a lot to look forward to, and it's hard to remember that it was just one weekend, right? We still got a lot to go with Winterspell.
Yeah, I did fail to mention the fact that adding to the I guess reputation, if you will, in our group of me always pulling the good pulls. In my sealed pool, I did open three legendaries. So I got the Darkwing Duck, I got the Angel, and I pulled a foil Ohana Means Family as well. So all three of those made it into my sealed deck, and maybe that was my downfall, is depending on a 7-cost Darkwing Duck. Maybe I should have shifted my curve down a little further. But yeah, so I pulled those 3 legendaries and then the enchanted from the prize pack. So pretty great pull rate for myself on the night. And thankfully it kind of continued into the weekend. Like I mentioned before, we opened up a couple boxes this weekend so far, just through buying them in the community really, and managed to pull, I think, 4 legendaries out of each of the boxes. And then now we're working on another box, and my daughter, I think, has the greatest pack luck of anyone I've ever met. Prior to this, I think she's opened like 6 packs and has like 4 legendaries and an epic out of them. And then she opened a single pack this morning before I left for work and managed to pull an enchanted out of it. It's just like, I saw a peek of it as she was flipping through the cards, and I just laughed to myself right away. And then she pulled it, and I tried to make the most out of it. And yeah, that's always fun, seeing the little ones pull shiny cardboard. And yeah, so she pulled an enchanted Angel, which was pretty exciting to see that come out of the pack as well. And that was her first pack of Winterspell that she had opened. So that was, laughing in my face of how I get the shiny ones. So
you
that
get it again. Oh darn.
Yeah. That was probably the best pull of the weekend for our household.
Yeah, very much a meta relevant card, I think, too, with like Angel is something I think people were like, I don't know if it's going to be good, but now that we're starting to see some of these opening deck lists, it is perceived to actually be very good. So in terms of an enchanted pull, that is a very good one to pull. So congratulations again, I guess, Ryan, because you get all of it. But
thank you. Yeah. I will accept all donations of pack luck going forward, because I think I've used all of mine. Wish me luck on anything else that I pull from here on out, because it's probably just going to be 2 rares and a foil common, and that's it. Every single pack from here on, that's what I'm going to get.
Yeah, we'll see when we have our Friend Sealed event in a week or so of who gets the pack luck that night. Someone's going to pull at least an epic, I think, but we'll see if we get even more luck here as a group. And hopefully we get an enchanted out of the box and a half of, sealed product we're going to open that night. So, but speaking of, I think we're going to try and get into some perceived kind of Winterspell costs, unless anyone else has any other topics on the sealed event.
No, I think that's perfect time to transition. I know Nathaniel was interested in bringing this up, and then we can also just talk about, after this, maybe talking about some what we're seeing in some deck lists early on. But the Winterspell market, Nathaniel, what does it look like for singles out there on the Winterspell card market?
So I think this is really interesting, like in comparison with Whispers in the Well, where like there was definitely fluctuation, right? There's all this, there's like the pre-release wave of cards and the pricing. Then there's like the kind of influx of big box retailers getting more cards, right? And cards generally will come down in price, like over those couple weeks especially, and then usually kind of as the set continues. Depending on certain results of big tournaments, certain cards become more popular, blah, 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 right? But I think what's interesting that I'm noticing about this set is, and then last set too, like I was pretty much more focused on buying single cards. I did buy some sealed product, but not really a whole lot. And I think with I almost said Into the Unknown, Wild's Unknown, right? Like being just around the corner, I personally had kind of thought, hey, probably want to focus again on a little bit more like singles for this set, and then maybe a little bit more fun, open more packs for the fun of packs during that set. And what's interesting is we're still in this pre-release wave of the set only being officially 3-4 days old. And card prices have come down like quite a bit already from a singles perspective. I think that's been kind of surprising. Like cards that I had anticipated would be pretty relevant. For example, the Bambi, right? The Amber super rare is, already under $1. I guess that's just surprising to me that we're this early and prices are already this low. And I think you guys brought up the good point of now that we have sets 5 through 8, Fabled and Whispers, this is, the 7th set in this rotation, which for those of you who can remember, back during like Arcasia's, deck lists weren't being impacted a whole lot after Azurite Sea. There was maybe a few cards here and there with some of the big popular decks. And then I think the funny story I remember is when we hit set 8, I think there was like 0 cards different in like the DKP Half Shark list, right? That was very popular, blue-red, a little bit less big, greedy Mack blue-red and more like Maui Half Shark do actions and do that. And I think that was, you guys like totally kind of paint that picture in a perfect way of like, now there is a pretty decently wide pool of cards. Cards got to be really good now to start making its way into it. And as a purple player, I was probably swung too far one direction with the last set, having so many good Amethyst cards, especially Amethyst legendaries. So the other part to this conversation about the value of the cards chasing singles versus ripping packs is the legendary power level for most of the legendaries this set feels a little bit smaller than some of the legendaries from last set, like your Hades, your Demonas. In this set, probably being the Moana, I think, as the highest, and Angel maybe being the next popular one from a legendary perspective. Ohana, I think, is up there, but it seems like some of the better cards are lower rarity, which means they're going to generally be not crazy pricey, right? So, for example, if the common Tigger, that's a 4-cost bounce your opponent's 2-cost or less character, is really good, it's still a common card, so it's not ever really going to be expensive. So I think that actually, I did say this, right? I was kind of hoping that there would be good, less rare cards this set. It does feel like that's actually happening right now. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I can go. I would echo that fact about like the perceived value, especially from a legendary perspective, is significantly lower than that of what we saw in Whispers in the Well. I know kind of the caveat there is that Whispers was the first set after a significantly low power level that we saw come out of Fabled. So just keep that in mind. But I was looking at some prices, and I think we need to throw it out, not here for financial advice. We never are, but just more some observations in the market that we've noticed, especially with it being the first weekend. Some of the Whispers legendaries are already more expensive than what the Winterspell ones, the ones that were just released, are now from a market perspective, which I think just goes to show like the perceived power of those legendary cards in Whispers is significantly greater than that of the Winterspell cards. So for me personally, I know this is my perspective. People like opening sealed product, go do your thing, right? And we're coming off the heels of a sealed event of which we very much enjoyed ourselves. Like, patience is something I'm going to continue to kind of like remind myself, and just stick to the singles route for deck building purposes, knowing that with families, we have to budget this out as best as we can for and ensure that the our value is well taken in what we want to purchase for the decks that we want to build. So I am eyeing specific common, uncommon, rare, and super rare. And I think that's a good thing to kind of have these quote unquote like filler decks, so to speak, with really good like rare and super rare pools. Like, to your point, Nathaniel, though, they're like still cheap. Like, there's a higher quantity of them, so therefore it's more readily available for those to purchase. You pointed out the example with the Bambi. Everyone thought that this was going to be one of those really good super rares, and it very much could be one of those really good super rares, but upon initial release, it's already under $1, and you could get it under $1, and so you could fill a play set in under $5, which is kind of crazy. So that's what I'm focusing on, are those rare and super rares. And I think for the first time in a while, I've noticed, to your example, I forget what amethyst card you brought up. Was it Tigger? Like, even commons and uncommons, like, there are some good ones that could fill in some gaps here for certain deck lists that it's not something we see a lot of in the common and uncommon slot. So I think it's a good thing, but just know that if you're going to like seek out sealed product for high valued cards, again, financial advice aside, like, there is more risk there. And I want people to be aware of it, that because the perceived value of this set seems to be trending lower than other sets, kind of the bang for your buck, so to speak, just know that there's more risk in going the sealed product route rather than the singles route, or at least that's the way I am taking it upon the initial wave of Whispers in the Well. Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're kind of in the phase of rotation where powerful deck lists are established, and we're 2 sets from the end of the rotation, and I think there's going to be a lot of cards now that aren't going to see so much play for the next 6 months, but come set 13, when the next rotation hits, and I'm assuming they're probably going to do a similar, the game designers are going to do a similar thing that they did with Fabled, where the power level drops so they can bring it back up in the following sets. That we're going to see some cards from this set, Winterspell, and next set, Wilds Unknown, that aren't going to be that popular right away, but then with rotation are going to become very popular. So I think that we'll see a little bit of that happening, and that'll be kind of a cyclical thing as we go through multiple generations of rotation in this game. With that being said, though, I think it is very healthy for the community to have this, to have these sets where there is not all this power locked in the legendaries, effectively gated, if you will, for much of the community, because it's either get really lucky with your sealed pulls or dish out some cash for some singles to get those powerful legendaries in your decks. And instead, now this set, there's tons of access to a lot of the powerful cards, since they happen to be in the lower rarity symbols for that. I think that also opens up this giant avenue. We're also reaching a critical mass, I think, both from a pure card number perspective and also this power level disparity perspective, where there's a lot of opportunity for deck building and unique color combinations, and I think the game designers have done a very good job of crafting and creating and curating this list of cards that are now available to be played and core constructed to allow for a broad spectrum of viable decks, where you can get a lot of mileage out of surprising some people with whatever homebrew or whatever deck list you've been working on for the last couple of months, by adding in some of these lower rarity symbol but still high power level cards to those decks. Something like a rare genie. Everyone has flashbacks. So rare genie from Azurite Sea. Yes, it's been a staple in the format so the entire time that I've played the game. That being said, there's another rare genie now that is creates this like ticking time bomb effect. The Genie Magical Researcher, it's a 3-cost inkable, 3/4, quest for 1, boost 1, and this character gets +1 lore for each card under him. So it creates this ticking time bomb effect where turn after turn after turn you can keep boosting him, and then you have to decide, okay, do I turn him now and get 4 lore and let him get banished, or do I wait to get like 6 lore in 2 turns, or do I have a Donald Duck Fred Honeywell that Nathaniel mentioned earlier that allows this Genie to get multiple cards placed under him each turn, or are there other ways that we can put extra cards underneath Genie to kind of ramp up that lore gain even faster? But again, that's just a rare card that has this giant ceiling on its impact on the game as well. And that's, if we're just talking $1 or $2, it's not nothing to get a playset, right? $10, $8 or $10 for a playset is still a significant amount of money for four pieces of cardboard. But comparatively to Whispers, where a lot of the power is locked behind the legendaries, where a Demona was $30, a Hades was $30. I forget what the other. I'm just stuck in purple and amethyst because I play amethyst a lot. But there was definitely some other. Let me look them up quick.
Goliath, Webby.
Oh yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah, Goliath and Webby, again, like $20 legendaries. I mean, to get playsets of all those, we're looking at $80 to $100, $120 compared to like $8 to $10. I'm excited that there is this like plentiful assortment of powerful cards that are accessible to a large swath of the community, because I think it's really going to breed a lot of creativity for the game, and it also allows for this like brief respite on the pocketbook too, to allow people to kind of ramp themselves up for what I'm assuming is going to be an incredible Wilds Unknown set. We only just got through Winterspell, but I think it's hard to not look ahead when they've been kind of slowly teasing some things for Wilds Unknown already. Where I think they're going to hammer home a lot of like the power cards again in the higher rarities, just because they're introducing brand new franchises and a whole new animation company and Pixar coming to the game. So I am excited for Winterspell. One of my favorite ways that we open packs in this house is Pack Rush, and it's a great way for us to like play on a completely even playing field. No one's curated any deck list. No one has any additional knowledge over the other of what's in the opponent's deck or anything like that. And so it's a nice way to just spend some time together and enjoy the hobby and open some packs and see new artwork, which is the artwork, I think every time I talk about this set, I have to mention the artwork because it is stunning, and I love that they've incorporated winter atmospheres into character cards that I would not naturally expect them to be in a winter setting. Things like the entire Lilo and Stitch series, like Nani sipping hot cocoa with winter outside, is not something I expected to see. Stitch carefree snowboarder, like we had Surfer, that was very on brand being Hawaii, but now we have a snowboarder Stitch. That's crazy. So I just think that all in all the lower rarity symbol, higher with the power level in those lower rarity symbols is very positive for the game, to be quite honest with you. Are there any particular cards that you are focused on?
Yeah, I was going to you alluded to a little bit, and I was going to ask this question kind of a little tangential, but kind of tinfoil hat topic. Do you think, based on the value that we're seeing for Winterspell, it's because they're gearing up to Wilds Unknown? It's a lot of value in that set, or does anyone want to kind of predict that? Or what do you think? Or is it kind of just like, it's just kind of the nature of this set, and we'll see what happens with Wilds Unknown? What are your thoughts there?
I think that's an interesting point. I don't think that's what's happening. I don't think they intentionally like dropped things into lower power levels, but I do think that I don't know much about card games. That's been well established. But I do think that a healthy card game has a wide array of powerful cards across the rarity symbols, and putting a lot in the common and uncommon and rare slots is important for keeping people interested in the game. Because if you always lock it behind a paywall, effectively, of having the highest rarity be the only cards that are the most powerful and need to be played and everything, then I feel like you lose interest in a lot of the player base pretty quickly, especially when this is like a family-oriented game and many people are buying multiple play sets for their family members that all play together at home, and so making it extremely affordable is highly enticing for Ravensburger, I think, and I think it's a good thing to have a wide spread of power throughout the different rarity symbols across a 4-set rotation block.
Yeah, I mean, I personally am pretty glad, right, like as an Amethyst player, that like I don't have to go chasing expensive cards this set. It feels like to still have a really good, viable, solid purple deck, which could be purple paired with maybe everything once again, because it's just that good. We'll see.
You had some like numbers on the values of the Winterspell and Whispers, Nathaniel. You want to talk about that too?
Yeah, so I just looked up the prices. So the time of recording for context here is the Monday after pre-release, so Monday, February 16th. So the set is, again, 4 days old. It's very young. The 12 cards that are in the legendary slot, on average, for Winterspell are about $10 a card, maybe slightly under that. The average legendary card from the prior set, Whispers, is still right now $11 per card. So that's some context across the wider cards. Now there's some big swings there, so I think it's important to maybe also just say, hey, what are the top like 6 or top like 4? And the top 4 cards for Winterspell are Moana, Angel, Ohana, and there's one $9 one, I forget, but there's 29, 23, 18, and $9 cards. For context, Whispers, those cards that are in those kind of top value slots are Cinderella at 35, 29 for Demona, 19 for Hades, and 14 for Goliath. So to Mack's earlier point, the value of the legendaries from the prior set seems to still be quite high, particularly the top end, right? Like where you're really looking at like 4 cards being still valued at like 14 or higher as legendary slot cards. From the prior set, which usually once a new set releases, they do tend to come down. So I think it does speak to the fact that Whispers really did have some fantastic cards that will probably stick around for a while, which I'm happy about. As a purple player, great. Fantastic news, because golly, Demona is amazing. And I think I touched on this in our side chat, but I did happen to pull one of those ooey gooey marshmallows where now if I play Marshmallow on 5 and Demona on 6, that feels amazing. So, and for those who aren't aware, Marshmallow is the rare Amethyst card from Winterspell that says when this character quests, your opponent can only ready one of their exerted characters during their ready phase. So if you pair it with Demona, it's unbelievable. And we'll see how many times it happens, because it is an uninkable, so that's worth considering. But he quests for 2, and he's a 5/5, so it's kind of good.
Yeah, I mean, the purple legendaries, even going all the way back to Fabled, have just been going crazy. I mean, Dumbo was the chase, and that was an expensive card during the Fabled meta to get a hold of. Partially, I think, driven by the fact that DLCs were coming back, and people were all really excited about it, and purple seemed to be very consistent and very good in the DLC format. Obviously evidenced by the fact that I think purple Amethyst decks won both DLCs in that set. And so obviously Dumbo becomes a huge cornerstone of those, and so he was a very expensive card. But I'm grateful that, again, like Nathaniel mentioned, there's not that chase legendary that we have to pony up a bunch of cash for in order to keep playing Amethyst at the highest level possible. But that doesn't mean that these past sets are losing value, though, right, fellas?
Yeah, for sure. And I think for context, right, like Ryan and I are both Amethyst lovers, at least for the last year. We think purple's a great color. For context here too, right, like I'm glad Ryan brought up the Dumbo card, because if you just right now, if you went out to get 4 Dumbos, 4 Hades looking for a deal, and 4 Demona Scourge of the Wyvern clan, right now on Monday, February 16th, that would be $360 for a playset of just those 3 cards. Now, granted, those are 3 super powerful cards that are probably going to be played in a lot of other Amethyst lover decks, right? But like that's a lot, right, for just 3 of your 12 of your 60 card deck. So I do think it is nice that like meta relevant cards could be not legendary, so they don't need to be that expensive. But like I think that's great context. Now, these cards will be around for a while because they were Fabled and beyond, right? Like they're going to be cards that we'll have for the next year and a half. But I mean, that's That's a lot. Like, I think if you had put that to me, like, ahead of Fable, that might have said, like, is it time to find a different ink combination? Maybe it's time to become lemon lime. I don't know.
Since you're on the price train here, what is the? I know I've heard rumblings that Fabled is kind of going wild right now in terms of value. Are you familiar or in tune with that at all? Or either of you kind of tuned into what's happening with that?
I had seen some posts on a couple different social media sites recently about the fact that Fabled was, like, the sealed product was kind of going up quite a bit. That being said, it sounds like because Fabled was a reprint set, Ravensburger didn't print a ton of it. And so it now, I guess, booster boxes are going for a lot higher than MSRP. Like, I was seeing as high as like $300 for a booster box. Mack, have you also seen that?
Yeah, I was just looking it up a little bit earlier today, and the Fable boxes caught me by surprise. To your point, they've kind of skyrocketed in value, which is interesting. To your point, it's probably because they printed less, because, I don't know, 75% of it was reprints, right? But the other side of it is it was the first iconic introduction, right? And specifically the iconic duo of Mickey and Minnie. So I think just it goes to show that over time, and we see this in other TCGs like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, right? Those older sets, over time, that's where the value seems to skyrocket. And my thought is it's due to the fact that since the volume is much lower in terms of what was printed and the introduction of iconics, there's just going to be a lower volume of the Mickey and Minnie, and now people want to be a part of it. It might have been before we started recording, Nathaniel, you mentioned that Ravensburger has confirmed that they're like done printing any sort of Fabled whatsoever, right? So like that inherently drives the value up because of this, scarcity and knowing that there won't be more of that product out there in the future. And I think kind of the collectors are trying to swarm in now to get that iconic pair, knowing that they're the first, and they will always be the most expensive, or at least in the top 5 of most expensive iconics, because they were first. An example is like base set 1 Charizard, right? First edition. It's the first, so therefore it's the most expensive. I think the one kind of caveat there, and something that I'm interested to see what happens with Wilds Unknown, my hope is that their iconic duo is some sort of Pixar character, right? Because it's the first time they're introducing Pixar. I think it would be smart if that iconic pair is not only together, right? Woody and Buzz, or Lightning McQueen and Mater, right? Something like that. Hopefully same franchise, but if it's not the same franchise, at least 2 Pixar characters. And again, those are the first Pixar iconics, the first set that Pixar has introduced. I can see those 2 being very expensive long term as well, as we're starting to see with the Mickey and Minnie. So, time goes to show that the value really starts to increase when when people start to realize that the volume is much lower than people really realize and truly can like grasp and wrap their head around when the product is like released right now, like you're in the middle of a set, right? So it's kind of interesting though, because everyone was like, Fabled, not my favorite. And now it's like the second or third most expensive set currently, behind First Chapter and maybe Floodborne. It's crazy how the market changes like that. What are your thoughts? I know, Nathaniel, you mentioned you noticed the Fabled increase. Are you as shocked as I was, or are you kind of just like, it kind of makes sense?
I mean, I think it definitely makes sense. And to your point about the iconic piece, that definitely, I think, helps to carry some weight in the valuation or perceived valuation of a set. I was pretty surprised when I saw that. I think I literally saw that like this morning. And I was pretty surprised, just because, to your point, Mac, like the sentiment around Fabled for a lot of people was like, oh no, 33 new cards. I don't feel like amazing about this. so I'm probably just not going to buy much of it. I think the Iconic release was certainly a big driver for enthusiasm and just interest in the set, for sure. I think that helped encourage more people to buy sealed product back then. But, I think it does speak to like, hey, sometimes these things can surprise you. And if you were sitting on a booster box, you're probably pretty happy right now. And I just want to echo your earlier point, Mac, as we kind of transition here. For the love of everything dear and holy in this world, please be Woody and Buzz for the Iconics when we get to Wilds. Oh my gosh, please be them. I will be so thrilled. I'm never going to pull one. Maybe Ryan will. But oh my goodness, that would be unbelievable. And I guess to me, right, like if you're thinking about where many of the people who are playing Lorcana like would think about iconic Pixar characters, Woody and Buzz have to be in the conversation for like everybody, right? As like a top 3 to 5 duo of all the years worth of Pixar, particularly when many of those current players now who are adults were kids. So I just think if Mickey and Minnie were the first just iconic duo from like a Disney Lorcana, we're gonna put our first ever duo, Mickey and Minnie. Great, makes a lot of sense. I guess in my brain, if you're gonna have a first from a Pixar perspective, I just don't see anything other than Toy Story. Maybe there are so many good ones, Mac, to your point, but that just feels like if you're gonna open it up, it has to be those two, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be Woody and Buzz if you're thinking of an iconic Pixar duo. I think Mac mentioned Lightning McQueen and Mater. I don't know if they've announced when Cars may be coming, but they have announced that Toy Story will be part of Wilds Unknown, and I would be happy to see Woody and Buzz in really, really shiny artwork and cardboard. I think that'd be cool. I think it'd be a cool fan service moment, and I think it'd be a great way, like Mac mentioned, I'm going to piggyback right on top of that it'd be a great way to introduce Pixar to Lorcana, to have this competing iconic duo to Mickey and Minnie in the Pixar universe join the fray as the new iconic duo for everyone to collect and go wild about for Wilds Unknown. We've touched on all the topics we wanted to talk about today, fellas. We're going to start wrapping up here. If you want to jump in, feel free to jump in and stop me. But thank you for all of our listeners. Appreciate everybody for jumping in and saying hi when we actually do make it out to an event in public, because obviously we don't get out a ton, and it's always nice to be able to chat with people and hear about people listening to the show and engaging with us through the airwaves in between our in-person events. If you need to find us, if you haven't yet followed us, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube. We'll post our videos there in addition to our audio content on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Feel free to leave us a comment and send us a note so we can include that in our future discussions. And we're really looking forward to seeing more of you as we get out to more events in the future. And can't wait to continue engaging and growing our acquaintances and our relationships in that regard too. Without further ado, though, fellas, let's get the duck out of here.